What's going on, guys? We are back. We got this nice little lovely thing again. This time, we're back with the Dodge and Burn deck. So let's do what we always do. There are a lot of fun cards in the Dodge and Burn deck. It was a very difficult deck to build, but it was very fun to play. If you watch the games that are coming out or already out, I don't know when they're coming out, but something like that. I don't know. Anyway, let's talk about the deck. The deck is a very powerful control deck. Don't play it aggro. You're going to mess things up very bad if you play it aggro. You can probably play it aggro, but don't. It's just so much easier to play control. So, we're running 24 lands, 11 islands, 9 mountains, and 4 Terramorphics. I like it. It seems very solid. We're not that eager to hit 6 mana. We're not that eager to hit 5. So, 24 seems solid. Normally in a control deck you want 25 because the 5 drop is very important for you. It's usually your game ending card, but you don't really need it in this. So, Pongify, destroy target creature. It can't be regenerated. That creature's controller puts out a 3/3 ape creature token onto the battlefield. I'm not a fan of Pongify, so I'm going to get rid of all the Pongifys. Because I don't like the I'm going to replace your creature and give you another one. Now, granted, that creature can't attack. That's an instant. It's nice to be able to go, I'm going to turn your dude into something else. But if you don't have a way to deal with it, and Pongify is your only way to deal with it, it's not a good option because this deck just does not struggle with removing creatures at all. If you've played it at all, you know that that's definitely true. That there are very few creatures that it struggles to deal with. And if it can't deal with them, they usually don't hit the field. So, I don't like Peek either. This is a terrible thing. You get to look at your opponent's hand and draw a card. So, I mean, it replaces itself, and you get to see what they have, but you don't get to do anything about it. So, I don't like it. Earthquake. Deal X damage to each creature without flying and each player. This deck is very much centered around burning out your opponent at instant speed, but dealing with things on the field at sorcery speed. If that makes any sense at all. During your turn, you usually don't want to play anything. You want to wait until their turn and respond to their options. If they don't play something, you just want to burn them in the face during their end step. But if there's something out on the field that you need to deal with, Earthquake, and then there's a few cards later, let you do that. So I like Earthquake. I definitely think it's a good option in there. Banefire is amazing, absolutely amazing. It's very helpful in the mirror if you can get ahead and just does stupid things. So, Kiln Fiend. I love Kiln Fiend. I love him with all my heart because he is just so stupid. I'm going to char you. You're going to lose 4, then I'm going to attack you for 4, and you're going to be at 12 just from turn 3. My 1 Kiln Fiend and my 1 char. Yeah, but that's aggro. We're playing Earthquakes. We're going to be playing Starstorms. We're going to be playing Volcanic Fallouts. We're going to be playing this 4-drop wherever it's at. Where are you, 4-drop? Sulphurous Blast. Everything in our deck that is mass removal kills our Kiln Fiend. It just is not good in that circumstance. And you don't need it. Ever. Like, definitely make sure to check out the games. If you haven't checked out my games of me playing Dodge and Burn, you do not need the Kiln Fiend ever. Swerve. Change the target of target spell with a single target. Not really great, so I'm not going to play it. Remand. If an uncommon is $15 in Modern, it's probably worth playing in a limited format. That's pretty much all I have to say about Remand. People might be like, I don't want to run Remand. They get the spell back in their hand. Let's think about this for a second. Okay? Turn 3, you have 3 mana open. They're going to play something, and you're going to Remand it. That card's going to go back in their hand. The board state's going to be exactly the same as it was turn 2. You're going to draw a card to replace your Remand, and the only thing that they will have gotten is a land. You just time walked, basically, for 2 mana. 2 mana time walk. Or Or, late game, I'm going to drop this big Eldrazi, and I'm going to remand that back to your hand. Oh, okay. I'm going to drop this big Eldrazi next turn, and I'm going to remand it back to your hand. You know, you're just drawing cards like crazy. It's definitely a great card. There is a reason that it's $15 in Modern, and there's a reason that I'm playing it. Memory Lapse. Very similar. I didn't realize the deck only had 2, because when I was playing against it with the Elspeth deck, he definitely dropped 2 on me almost every game, it felt like, that I lost. But anyway, counter target spell. If that spell is countered this way, put it on top of its owner's library instead of into that player's graveyard. Now again, you're going to say the same thing. They get the card back, so it's not good. Yeah, but they don't draw a card here. You don't draw the card, but they don't draw a card. They go, I'm on 3 mana, and I'm going to draw the card that I just wanted to play back into my hand. And wow, I was really hoping for a mana there, but I don't have a mana. Or I have to now tap out again to play this guy. And I get an extra land. So it's solid. It's a good counter spell. And it's not too situational like counter spell, where it's got to be double blue. And that's also the big reason that we're running 11 blue, is so that you can get these on turn 2 all the time, no matter what. Starstorm. Worst case scenario, you cycle it and draw a card, and it replaces itself for 3 mana. But it is an instant speed Earthquake that doesn't hurt you and hits creatures with flying. It's awesome. Volcanic Geyser, I am not a fan of. We have the Banefires, we have the Earthquakes and everything else that hit players, and they hit more than one. This only hits a single creature or a player, so I'm going to get rid of that. I am a fan of my Searing Spear. I like my Searing Spear. It's a good way. There are a lot of creatures with 3 toughness that are very annoying. I just got done playing with the Demon deck, and you know, you got a lot of creatures that have 4 toughness, 3 toughness, even 6, and you can double spear them, or 7 and spear and char it. Like, that deck does not beat this deck, because this deck just has much better control over it. You're okay trading 2 spells for a creature because they don't have that many big creatures. And all their other things are board wipe, or I'm going to make you discard this thing. Which, I mean, so it's just going to come down to burn, but that's alright. I like the spears. The Wee Dragonauts, the same thing that was said about the Kiln Fiend, except they're a little bit better. They're a little tiny bit better. The only things that kill them is a main phase, what's it called? Sulphurous Blast, or the Starfall for more than 3. So, I mean, they're a little bit more durable, but not really. So, I'm not a fan of them. I'm going to take them out. Because, again, we don't really need creatures to win with this deck. Cerebral Vortex is interesting. Target player draws 2 cards, and then it deals damage equal to the number of cards they've drawn this turn. So it's pay 3, draw 2, lose 3 life. That just does not sound good to me. Because black gets pay 2 life, draw 2 cards. Not pay 3, draw 2 cards, lose 3 life. So I get rid of that. Electrolyze. Electrolyze is interesting because it replaces itself. It's a good burn spell because you get to draw a card, and you can kill 2 1/1 creatures. So it gives you the option. If not, you can hit a creature and hit a player, or you can do 2 damage to 1 creature. I like it. Or 2 damage to a player and draw a card. So it's nice because it replaces itself. If it didn't replace itself, it probably wouldn't be playable, because Flames of the Firebrand is just so much better if in those circumstances. But since it replaces itself, it definitely is better. Cancel. It's a counter spell. We're playing a control deck. It's not the best counter spell in the world, but you know, if you have trouble getting into... Oh, someone commented on the video. Let's mention him. Seb Smash Gaming. You're awesome. You should have more subscribers. Thanks, Seb. So, back to our deck analysis. Cancel. Counter target spell. It's a good way for those cards that you're just hopping back and forth with remand that you don't want to see on the field. This actually gets rid of them. Thoughtbind. Counter target spell with converted mana cost 4 or less. with converted mana cost 4 or less. Very situational. I'm not a fan of very situational cards. They can be good in situations, but I'm not a fan of them. Char! Char is amazing. My From the Vault box has a foil Char in it, and I love Char. It's the only red card in the From the Vaults, and that's because it's probably one of the greatest cards for red ever. That's just the reason it hasn't been reprinted. That and Banefire. But anyway, Psionic Blast did the same thing. It was blue, cost the same amount of mana, but I definitely like the Char. So, we're going to keep in the 4 Chars. They're a good way to kill things with the big butts. So 4 damage, and you lose 2 life, but it's whatever. You know, you don't really care about your life total. The games, like I had mentioned in my plays, I think, excuse me, that I tend to go down to very low life totals very often with this deck, and you're okay with that because you're just a control deck. You're like, I'm gonna lose 18 life, and I'm gonna stabilize it too, and then I'm gonna kill you. It's just how the deck works. You know, there's gonna be points in the game where you can't play Char, but you can play Char, remand it, draw a card, or you can play Char and then Draining Welk and get a 4/4 Draining Welk out. So I mean, there's things that you can do, even if the Char isn't actually being used to do damage. Volcanic Fallout can't be countered. Absolutely amazing because it can't be countered. Okay. Sorry. There are still very important life things going on right now, and when my wife messages me, I kind of have to read it and make sure that it's not drastically important. She just wants me to record a hockey game tonight, so I'm going to do that. But anyway, can't be countered, so Bant Charm can't counter it. The opposite deck, the mirror match, cannot counter it because it can't be countered. It kills Kiln Fiends if you're playing against an aggro version of this for some reason, which would make no sense, but it's just in case you are. So the Volcanic Fallout's definitely staying there. Invoke the Firemind is not the greatest card ever. It's a sorcery, but it has the option to do a lot of different things, and I like that. It can draw you, so for 5 mana it draws you 2 cards, which is bleh. For 6 mana it draws you 3 cards, that's a little bit better. 7 mana draws you 4 cards, that seems good. 8 mana draws you 5, awesome. Or you can use it to do damage. Again, 8 mana does 5 damage. So, I mean, it's super late game, and that's why there's only 2 in the deck, and I'm okay with only 2 in the deck. Or you can even use them earlier if you get into a bad situation. Compulsive Research is probably one of the best draw cards, in my opinion, ever, because you draw 3 cards and discard a land. So, I mean, most of the time, if you're set on your lands, you don't really need to worry about it. So, yeah, Compulsive Research is good enough. Breaking Point. Deals 6 damage. If any player has Breaking Point, deals 6 damage to her. If no one does, destroy all creatures that can't be regenerated. Now, usually you're doing a relatively good job of controlling the board. There aren't going to be that many creatures out. And if there are, you're in a very bad situation. And Breaking Point will help you. Ah, yawn. Yawn, yawn, yawn. Ugh. So, I've been talking for like an hour and a half, 2 hours now. So that's why I'm yawning, and I apologize. Breaking Point just does not seem to be that good. It's a situational card where, like, you have no board presence. They have like 3 cards, and you have a lot of burn spells in your hand. Because if they have... I mean, they're almost always going to take the 6 damage if they feel like they're fine. But you need to have another removal spell in your hand, or it's not going to be good. So I don't like relying on that. Browbeat's also interesting, but it's just Compulsive Research for the most part. And most of the time your opponent's going to take the 5 damage if they feel like they can. If not, you just Compulsive Researched and kept an extra land. So, I get rid of those guys. Pillage, destroy an artifact or land. No thank you. Reigns of Power. Untap all creatures your opponents or you control and your opponents control. Again, you're controlling the field. You're wiping the board constantly. Your opponent should not have any spells ever, or any creatures on the field ever. So this does not help you. Sulphurous Blast deals 2 damage to each creature and each player. If you cast this spell during your main phase, it deals 3 damage instead. And it's a great way to wipe a lot of creatures off the field. So I'm going to keep Forehead for now. We'll see what happens later with that. Stolen Goods. Your opponent exiles cards from the top of his or her library until he exiles a non-land card. Until the end of the turn, you can cast that card without paying its mana cost. You're very likely to cast a card that you don't even care about. 5 mana for a 0/4 defender that brings back a sorcery from your graveyard. No thank you. Future Sight. Let's talk about Future Sight because this is a card that I greatly undervalued when I first looked at it. So you play with the top card of your library revealed, and you may play the top card of your library. So for 5 mana, you can play lands from the top of your library, play instant speed counter spells or removal or anything. So it's basically like draw 3 cards a turn sometimes. Sometimes even more than that. You can go like 6 cards. And it just gets you so far ahead. So I definitely keep the Future Sight in there. Draining Welk absolutely must stay in the deck. He is an alternative win condition if you're not able to burn them out. And, I mean, a lot of the times you don't even need to worry about burning them out. Enters the battlefield, counter target spell, put X 1/1 counters onto Draining Welk, where X is the spell's converted mana cost. Flying and Flash. So he counters that big Eldrazi that costs like 9 mana, and he's a 10/10 Draining Welk. They tapped out to play that gigantic Eldrazi, and you're swinging for 10 with a Draining Welk. Rawr. So I like it. Charmbreaker Devils, the beginning of your upkeep, return an instant sorcery card at random from your graveyard to your hand, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, he gets +4/+0 at random. I don't like it. I mean, a lot of our spells are good, but 6 mana for a 4/4 that doesn't get bigger, other than he's just gonna get chup blocked if we're relying on him. I mean, if you're trying to play it aggro and play like here's my idea of the aggro deck. You're gonna play these. You're gonna play the Browbeats. You're gonna play the Breaking Points. You're gonna play the Dragonauts. You're gonna play the Kiln Fiends. You're probably not gonna play the Volcanic Fallout. You're probably not gonna play the Earthquake. You're probably not gonna play the Starfall. So it gets you a lot more creatures, and you just rely on your burn and your counter spells to do things. But a lot of times you're not casting counter spells during your turn. So most of the time you gotta cast spells during their turn, and the counter spells don't help you get to their goal. So you might even take out counter spells and bring in Breaking Points or something. I don't know. I don't like it. I don't think it's good enough. Gather Specimens. If a creature would enter the battlefield under your opponent's control this turn and enters under your field instead, 6 mana. It's interesting, but it's really not that good. Opportunity I like a lot. Target player draws 4 cards for 6 mana. It's 1 card more than what the Mine or the Invoke the Fire Mine does, and it's instant, which is nice. But I don't think I can run it just because we already have enough card draw, and I've really had no problem with this deck drawing cards. So I'm gonna get rid of those guys. Overwhelming Intellect. Power overwhelming. Counter target creature spell. Draw cards equal to the spell's converted mana cost. It's interesting, but again, we don't have a problem drawing cards. I don't want the deck to be too top heavy because I do want to keep 24 lands in there. Because this is our curve right now. I mean, look at this. We're probably going to have like 2 or 3 6-drops. So, I mean, this is the curve. Fire Blast. Fire Blast is good. I like Fire Blast. It deals 4 damage to target creature or player. And you can sack 2 mountains instead of paying the 6. So you can tap out and be like, I've got 8 mana on the field, I'm going to tap out and play something. Like play my Draining Welk, and then Fire Blast you by sacking 2 mountains. So I like it. Spell Twine. Exile target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard, and target instant or sorcery spell from an opponent's graveyard. Choose those cards, cast the copies, if able, without paying their mana cost. I don't like it. It's just too much. A lot of times your opponent's not going to have that many great instants or sorceries. The format is very aggro intensive, or very board wipe control intensive. Djinn Illuminatus. Flying. Each instant and sorcery spell you cast has Replicate. Replicate is a very interesting ability. I believe that Replicate is you can discard 2 lands or something and bring it back. I'm not 100% certain. So let's go to the wiki and look up MTG. Leaning back in my chair, away from my keyboard. So let's go MTG Replicate, so that I can give you an actual definition for Replicate. Copies created with Replicate will have, let's see, is a keyword that represents 2 abilities. The first is a static ability that functions while the spell is on the stack. The second is a trigger ability that functions while the spell is on the stack. Replicate cost means as an additional cost to spell, you may pay cost any number of times where the cast you may pay cost any number of times, and when you cast the spell, if the replicate cost was paid, copy it for each time that replicate cost is paid. If the spell has any targets, you may choose new targets for the replicate. Okay, so that's what replicate is. I was thinking of something else. So you can go char, pay 3 mana, char again, pay 3 mana, char again, pay 3 mana, char again. It's really good, but 7 mana, it just does not cut it for us. And Spirit Away, again, I don't like it. Too expensive. So we have 2 cards too many in the deck. So let's look around. Let's look around, see what we can do. So we got a lot of cards, a lot of cards. What don't we like that much? Well, I think the first thing we do is we cut down 1 of the Sulphurous Blast. I actually think we cut down 2 of the Sulphurous Blast. We have enough board wipe and control other than that. So we have 2 Volcanic Fallouts. We have 2 Sulphurous Blast. We have 2 Starfalls. And we have 2 Earthquakes. So that is a total of 8 removal. Like mass board wipe removal. And then for anything that's too big, we have Chars. So I think that's an option. I definitely like it. I think that's what we're going to do. Now, you can see that it's very heavy on its mana cost here, but we're not worried about getting to 6 mana. 6 mana can happen whenever it wants, because the longer the game goes on and the higher that their cost that they're paying, the better that Draining Welk is. So we only have 1 5-drop and we only have 2 4-drops, so the deck is very intent on being around 3, and you don't have any problem drawing lands, so I feel like 24 is perfect. You might even be able to get away with 23, but like this is a control deck right here. 2 creatures, 34 other spells, and 24 lands. Awesome. So that's the deck. Let's go through it real quick. We're looking at 4 Terramorphic Expanses, 2 Earthquakes, 2 Banefires, 4 Remands, 2 Memory Lapse, 2 Starstorm, 3 Searing Spears, 2 Electrolyzes, 2 Cancels, 4 Chars, 2 Volcanic Fallouts, 2 Invoke the Firemind, 3 Compulsive Research, 2 Sulphurous Blast, 1 Future Sight, 2 Draining Welks, and a Fire Blast. Let me know what you guys think of the deck. Let me know what changes you'd make. And as always, thank you for watching. Leave a like or comment if you enjoyed the video. I try to answer all the comments that I can. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.